Buonasera a tutti ragazzi, ben arrivati sul Calice Nero. Buonasera Ariber, ben ritornato.
Buonasera maestro.
Allora, oggi abbiamo un nome che spacca il culo, perché abbiamo niente poco di meno che gli Incantation con Mr. John McEntee. Un nome, una garanzia per il death metal dal 1990, ne abbiamo visto di cotte e di crude, quindi andiamo a chiamare Mr. John. Welcome John.
Hell yeah, what's up? How are you? Prego, everybody.
We're doing great. Thanks for being here this evening. It's a real pleasure and an honor to have you on behalf of Incantation. So thanks again.
Well, it's great to be here. It's great to be here, for sure.
Allora, la prima domanda, John, voglio chiederti, come sei riuscito con gli Incantation a regalarci emozioni incontrastate, emozioni uniche, quasi come se fosse un quadro di un pittore ancora non conosciuto che è diventato famoso dal nulla e dal nulla avete creato la storia del death metal?
Okay, so the first question is, how do you feel about the fact that you've been able to not just make history of black metal, but also to rise, let's say, basically out of nowhere, because you started pretty early in the end of the 80s. And how do you feel about making everyone feel new emotions every time we're talking about Incantation, and that there are feelings that no one can replicate or recreate at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely cool. I mean, we've been doing what we've been doing for a long time, and it basically has always been just like we have our vision on how we want to do things, and we did it at a time when there was definitely less rules in death metal. So, you know, we just kind of used our own influences to kind of make death metal in our own way. And I think that even though it was always a little untraditional from some of the other bands that were out there, I think it was a good thing because we were able to establish our own sound based on our own inspirations and not just have like let's just say now there's lots of death metal bands out there now, lots of death and black metal bands, and you have so much to choose from as far as what direction to go. You could be like this band a little bit or like that band a little bit, but for us, it's like we've always been really about just trying to be ourselves. Of course, we have our influences, but we were always interested in taking those influences and making something of our own and kind of pushing the limits of it. But as far as you know, we were always so we'll say we're always happy that people could relate to what we do because we don't do it for people to relate to us. We do it for our own personal expression. So when people do enjoy what we do, it's more pleasurable because it's not part of the game plan. We're not trying to be the biggest band out there. We're trying to be, just the best incantation we could be. We're trying to be us. So yeah, it's awesome. When people like us, there's a good connection, we'll say, between us and our supporters because we
So
relate on the same thing.
yeah, so basically you uh, put the bar of what incantation should be, which is no boundaries at all. Is that correct? Like,
Yeah, pretty
let
much.
you
I mean,
set
there's
your
no
own
boundaries.
boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, we're always going to be heavy and aggressive and whatnot, but we don't have boundaries as far as what the way people look at death metal. Like we don't follow the trends. We're not interested in that kind of stuff. We're interested in creating what we create, doing it our way, and um, yeah, using it as a form of say more self-expression than it is
Mhm.
trying going for commercial success. I mean, it would be a lot easier if we were trying to write songs that were catchy and could easily get picked up by the mainstream of death metal, but we want to go in our own darker realm. We want to be
Mhm.
us is the bottom line.
Yeah, so it's basically everything's personal and not just in terms of what we can do, what we cannot do, but also like uh, mentally wise, like it's for fun, even though it's dark and uh, grim, call it whatever, something like
But it's
that.
a good way to express yourself. It's like
Yeah.
you get out all the hatred, everything that pisses you off in the world. Almost like doing this stuff cleanses you of all that inside hatred or inside mad, whatever you're mad at or pissed off at or something. All that stuff can come out in the music, and it's a really great thing. I mean, after playing live or something, it's like you would think that we'd be pissed off as fuck, but at the end I'm like happy because I'm like I got everything that I hate out of me during that set,
Mhm.
and it makes for it almost like cleanses your, I don't know what the right word is, but cleanse your soul almost of everything negative because you're taking all that power and putting it into a certain amount of time during the day.
Yeah,
That
yeah, I can see
negative
that.
power. Yeah.
Okay, I will now translate what we have talked about as of right now.
Okay.
Allora, praticamente ha detto che a lui fa piacere che ovviamente la gente apprezzi quello che loro fanno e che addirittura prendono loro come punto di riferimento. Eh, la questione su cui Incantation sono nati non è tanto la questione di essere cattivi di per sé, musicalmente parlando, ma appunto quello di intanto fare qualcosa che ovviamente piacesse a loro e che gli facesse divertire da suonare. Ma addirittura essendo usciti in un momento in cui il death metal di per sé non era così tanto prolifico comunque quanto lo è adesso, come lui ha parlato anche del black metal, stessa identica cosa. Lui dice: noi non abbiamo mai avuto un problema di dire che direzione prendiamo. Ovviamente sì, hanno le loro influenze, ma non hanno mai sentito la necessità di dire ok, andiamo più verso questa direzione, verso questa band, piuttosto che verso un'altra, stilisticamente parlando. Non gli è mai interessato quel tipo di approccio. E hanno sempre preferito fare qualcosa che non fosse, possiamo dire, fruibile per la massa, nel senso che è troppo facile, dice, creare una canzone che sia che ti prenda, che sia orecchiabile, diciamo così. Loro vogliono fare comunque roba oscura in un certo senso, che comunque andasse a rispecchiare quella che comunque è una realtà. E paradossalmente lui dice: questo stile di musica che con Incantation viene fatto per noi è una sorta di lui l'ha chiamata purificazione dell'anima, nel senso che quello che vien fatto va a svuotare quel vaso di rabbia che si forma nel corso del tempo. Viene sia scrivendo la musica che anche proprio facendo i concerti. Ha detto anche in quel lasso di tempo che ci viene dato per suonare, noi scarichiamo tutto, la gente magari ci vede fuori dopo, pensa che magari siamo incazzati, che siamo persone rabbiose. Ok, invece no, sono le persone più felici del mondo, cioè, e personalmente parlando, lo vediamo anche adesso durante l'intervista, che è molto, molto pacato, molto sereno.
Sì, benissimo.
Quindi in generale è comunque tutto un melting pot, chiamiamolo così, di stili e cose che a loro piace. E tra virgolette si può dire non gli frega un cazzo di quello che possono pensare gli altri. Non gli interessa affatto.
Infatti è quello il bello. La musica è la musica e poi dopo che si stacca con gli strumenti è tutt'altro, nel senso con la vita quotidiana di tutti i giorni. A te la prossima domanda, Dimer.
Okay, so talking more about you as a musician, this is my typical entry question when someone is coming to the channel, which is what got you into playing the guitars at first, and what also brought you into the side of metal that you are uh, listening to or playing to as well, like what you're enjoying musically?
Okay, well, I mean, the first band that kind of introduced me to wanting to play music, I mean, I grew up in the 70s as a kid, as a child, so I was really inspired by Kiss at the time because that was like one of the most extreme things that I heard as like, I don't know, 7 or 8 year old kid or something. So that immediately got me interested in wanting to play an instrument. It wasn't till years later until I really started getting serious about playing an instrument. Well, probably wasn't until I was like 13 or something like that, or 12. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in heavy music. I mean, I was into, like I said, Kiss stuff as a kid, and then started getting into like AC/DC and some other bands that were kind of, heavier at that time. And then once like the 80s came around, you started seeing more and more, like heavy metal bands like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, basically. And for me, that was one step heavier. And as pretty much the journey's been like, I kept getting one step heavier throughout the 80s until, by like the mid to late 80s, I started hearing bands like, you know, Possessed, Death, um, you know, early Morbid Angel demos, bands like Necrovore, just a bunch of stuff, Necrophagia. There's so many bands that I started hearing because I started getting into like the tape trading scene because I wanted to get even more underground, music wise. I wanted to understand more. I guess I was obsessed with metal, and I wanted to venture into the darker, heavier sounding stuff. So I really got into tape trading, and there was a lot of great like thrash bands that were playing kind of aggressive stuff, and also like death metal that was like, we'll say it's like pre-death metal bands and stuff like that, or bands that were finding their way into death metal was a lot of the stuff that I was into. Also like I remember like Napalm Death when I heard like Scum and stuff like that. That really inspired me. There's just a lot of death metal, grindcore, and also even before that, a lot of punk rock and hardcore stuff was the aggressive music of that time. So I was also into a lot of that. So I, by the time I started Incantation, I had, all these different influences, and I knew I wanted to take it into a dark way. And I think that was one of the things that made Incantation different, is that we weren't just influenced. We weren't just one of those bands that was a thrash band that switched to death metal. We were more of a collage of all different
Genre.
extreme styles. Yeah, but we were taking it in a heavier death metal direction. I mean, we've always felt that we were pure death metal, but at the same time, we're unlike the other death metal bands that are around. It wasn't the game plan necessarily to be different, but it was just like I mentioned in the last one, it was important for us to be ourselves and express it, because there's a point in your life where you have to make a choice. Do you want to do music for your passion, or do you want to do it for money? And I decided I want to do it for passion. And so I had to do something that was very honest to myself. But yeah, I mean, musically, I mean, say like guitar wise and stuff like that, it was just, I was just always was interested in having it heavier and heavier. I mean, you know definitely like Black Sabbath was a huge influence back then, because Tony Iommi's guitar tone was just so heavy, and the way he vibrated his strings, and the way it just was one of the
There
heaviest
was
things I
something.
heard. Yeah, it was something really special. So that doom aspect of Black Sabbath really started to develop in me too. And then I started getting into bands like Candlemass and Trouble and stuff like that were also doing this kind of style. But at the same time, I was into really aggressive stuff that was coming out. Like I said, like Morbid Angel, you know, bands like Terrorizer. I don't know. There's so many of them. So,
Repulsion.
question. I hope that answered your question. It's kind of,
Yeah, it did. It did. It did. To be honest. But yeah, I think that also, I mean, coming out from the 80s, you basically saw everything bloom, like musically speaking. So I can see why you also have so many influences in the music that you guys are producing. So I again, I can totally see that, and it sounds like it, even though you, from my point of view, and I guess yours as well, you change styles so many times throughout the albums. Even though I'm more into
Yeah,
the latest releases. Okay.
yeah.
Uh,
What's it's important. I'm sorry. It's important that like on an album for us that that the songs work in some sort of journey. You know, like it starts
mhm.
from beginning to end is kind of a story, even if the lyrics of some of the albums don't work together as a one piece. The music all should be
Flowing together.
kind of yeah, flow. Yeah, lots of flows and different vibes. You don't want to have just the same song on each album, or you know, even within the album, you want to have different styles of songs that all work together in a cohesive way to make a bigger picture. I know I'm not trying to sound like egotistical or pompous or whatever, but it's more about, you know, we just look at it more, and it sounds cheesy, but it's like an artistic way of expressing
Mhm.
ourselves. It's not about creating, um, you know, whatever the most brutal death metal album or whatever. It's about whatever expression we're trying to get across is about doing that in the proper way. It's just that we, you know, for us as a band, the most important thing is that it's heavy as fuck and that it's you know, dark, and it's like I said, it's getting something across that really means something, and not just it's not just about writing like individual songs. Like some bands, I think they're they spend a lot of time trying, okay, let's this people are going to like this song, it's going to be good, you know, like they're looking at it from wanting to be popular, and we're looking at it more from just expressing ourselves, because we've built our career on it, on doing it our way and expressing ourselves. So it's for us, it's better because people we feel like people come to us because they like what we do. You know, we will show them what we do, you know, but they'll come to us because they
Mhm.
like it. It's not like we're trying to force people or trying to cater to the fan base. And that's why sometimes when the scene changes and our style isn't as popular, then okay, we suffer from that, but it's okay because we're still honest
Living.
about what we. Yes, it's very sincere.
Yeah, because
Hope that's not
I
too
was
much.
also, I was also thinking that if you wanted to take the route of uh, having like, okay, this is the heaviest song, like if you have different things in the album musically, you would have just gone on with uh, singles instead of full lengths and stuff like that. But with full lengths, I can see the point you are trying to get. Since we were talking about like pictures
We're trying to paint
and
the picture.
exactly, you have the full piece of art and not the singular thing.
Yes, it's very difficult for us when we put out a new album and our record company is asking for what are going to be the singles on the album, and we're like, it's
Mhm.
like we don't have any singles. We don't write singles. We write a full album, but we basically have to just go and try to decide what's the best way to kind of represent the album with a few songs. You know, like this last one, Holy Deification, we had three singles that came up beforehand, and we tried just to mix up the styles of each single a little bit, because that's the only way we could do it, because there's no way you're going to hear one song off the album and understand what the whole album is, because it just isn't built that way. It's not, the album was built as one coherent piece of, you know, basically one piece of music. So cutting it into pieces is always very difficult. I mean, of course, live it's different because you have a lot of songs to choose from, and you could get the overall picture in a different way. But when it comes to the
Mhm.
album, it's very important for us that you know, we present it in a way for people that really want to understand what we're all about could listen to the album from beginning to end and hopefully just zone out and just absorb what we're doing. But we also know we're living in a world where people digest music in a different way than they did when we started. But we're stubborn in the way we look at it. But when people listen to, say, one song just on a Spotify playlist, they're never going to get the overall picture of what the band really is, because there's not one song that is us, or
It's a
one
snippet.
speed, or one style,
Ok,
Yeah, it's a snippet of the
adesso
whole.
traduciamo il tutto, perché veramente è
Ok.
molto lunga come situazione. Vai.
Allora, vabbè, io ho fatto la mia classica domanda di rito di apertura, cioè cosa l'ha portato
Mhm.
verso intanto il suonare uno strumento e
Yeah.
poi cosa l'ha portato ad avvicinarsi a generi come appunto quello che fa o quello che ascolta anche.
Mhm.
E ha detto che il primo gruppo che gli ha fatto prendere in mano uno strumento sono stati i Kiss, nel senso che lui ha sempre avuto una fascinazione per quanto riguarda suoni pesanti, chiamiamoli così. Perché appunto lui, essendo comunque cresciuto negli anni 70, ha visto nascere questo movimento e quindi ha iniziato a venir fuori molto più tra appunto i Kiss, poi si sono avvicinati gruppi come gli AC/DC e, e già là iniziavano a movimentarsi un attimo le cose, nel senso che lui cercava sempre il gradino un po' più pesante musicalmente. E poi sono venuti fuori gli anni '80, quindi hanno iniziato a venire fuori tutti i gruppi tipo, appunto lui ha nominato gli Iron Maiden come gruppi metal, e poi è iniziato a venire fuori tutto quel materiale ehm, tra il thrash, tra il death, tra grindcore. Lui ha citato anche il punk e l'hardcore punk. Ci sono tantissime cose che sono venute fuori in quegli anni, e tra i vari gruppi lui appunto ha citato non solo gli Iron Maiden, ha citato ad esempio i Napalm Death con Scam, appunto.
Morbid
Ha,
Angel.
esatto, i Morbid Angel con i primi demo, ehm, i Necrophagia
Sì,
anche.
sì, grandi.
E questi sono alcuni degli esempi, perché comunque c'è una palette talmente tanto ampia con quello che appunto questo va anche tutto a giustificare il motivo per cui loro non abbiano trovato un'identità effettiva, ma semplicemente voluto fare quello che gli piaceva. Quello che han fatto è stato molto, molto semplice. Han preso, tutte quelle cose, appunto tra questi generi anche proprio il proto death, quindi gruppi che non è che facessero death, ma si stavano avvicinando, ehm, togliendo tutti quei gruppi che prima facevano thrash e poi si sono spostati sul death. E appunto han creato questo ensemble, chiamiamolo così, di suoni, che è quello che poi è diventato Incantation nell'89 quando è nato il progetto. E appunto è una cosa che avevo notato ascoltandoli prima di questa intervista, comunque tenendo conto che io l'ho conosciuti relativamente tardi, o quantomeno che ho iniziato ad ascoltare qualcosa relativamente tardi. E il fatto che stilisticamente parlando non abbiano mai avuto un unico sound per tutta quanta la discografia, anzi,
Mhm.
cioè comunque son cosa? 34 anni di carriera
Yes.
che ci sono. Hanno cambiato stile talmente tante volte, ma comunque una cosa che mi ha fatto notare anche lui, c'è sempre un filone logico, cioè
Mm.
non è uno di quei gruppi che vuole comunque stilisticamente parlando non tanto attenersi alla stessa formula, ma fare la canzone ultra figa fine a se stessa e basta, ma ogni singolo album ha sì delle canzoni con vari stili, chiamiamole così, varie visioni d'insieme per la canzone, ma nel contesto tu riesci a vedere, e infatti si collega anche alla domanda che avevi fatto prima, a tutto il quadro che non solo è l'album, ma tutta quanta la discografia in sé. Cioè, una canzone che magari viene ascoltata, diceva lui, su una playlist a caso su Spotify, non ti dà tutta la visione di quello che è Incantation. Ti dà proprio un piccolissimo frammento di quella che è tutta la realtà che ci sta dietro. Sì, c'è talmente tanto da dire perché comunque dicevamo anche il fatto che se non avessero voluto applicare questo concetto sarebbe stato molto molto più sul facciamo singoli e basta piuttosto che fare full length, quindi non si pone neanche il problema. Comunque tutta questa palette, detto che è difficile riuscirla a prendere e trasferirla comunque sul palco, perché comunque tante canzoni da scegliere, tra cui da poter fare, quindi diventa tosta riuscire a dire ok, con questo, indipendentemente da tutto, riesci a dare l'immagine del gruppo.
Ok,
E
molto, molto interessante.
tutto
Prego,
qua.
prego.
No, tutto
Ok,
qua.
molto, molto. Ah,
Sorry,
ok.
I'm so
Scusami se ti ho
long-winded.
interrotto.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I told you to take your time. So
Allora,
now it's my problem.
allora c'è questo gioiellino di disco che secondo me è uno dei gioielli del death metal, The Infernal Storm. Uno dei dischi del 2000, quindi del nuovo millennio. Mr. John, come siete riusciti a creare quell'inferno, creando degli incantesimi, creando una seduzione, portando il tutto all'interno di una pellicola visiva, ma non esecutiva totale, nel senso una pellicola che quasi rimane ferma durante la proiezione verso un muro. Quindi non stiamo parlando di un film, ma stiamo parlando delle immagini. Quindi quelle immagini infernali, quelle immagini del subconscio dell'essere umano, quelle immagini che possono trasgredire verso degli incubi. Come siete riusciti a percepire il tutto e a trasferirlo in appunto questo disco di Infernal Storm?
Comunque vorrei dire che Rafael aveva ragione a dire che devi fargli conoscere lo spacciatore perché è impossibile. Allora, okay, the question is regarding the Infernal Storm. He says, and I have to agree with it, that is a great release for the beginning of the new millennium. And I was wondering, how have you guys been able to create this infernal picture, not the cover art per se, but the whole album, that can be seductive in a way? And how do you think can it be translated on a quote unquote slideshow? Say, because it was talking about a film, but then he referred to it as more of a slideshow kind of thing, and that shows different frames on a wall that are talking about the album. How do you picture that, and how it has been like creating that picture.
Huh. I never really thought about that. I mean, as far as like trying to make a kind of like a movie or yeah, a slideshow to kind of explain it or like work with it or something. But I mean, I mean, it's definitely it's a cool idea. I mean, that the Infernal Storm album is a probably the most controversial album that I've done. I mean, it's well, two are controversial. Mortal Throne Nazarene and Infernal Storm are kind of the most difficult ones to record and do as an album. But I think I don't know. I don't. I guess I don't really 100% understand the question.
No, it's like I was being the process behind that, and what pictures you can show while listening to that album. It does intricate questions, and it's how to try to give it as much sense as possible in English as well. So, pardon me if maybe I'm losing something on the way, but yeah, that's basically it about
Oh,
the question.
yeah. Well, the whole album is very, very dark album. So it definitely would be a, you know, extremely blasphemous kind of, um, visuals that would go with something like that. I mean, because it's it's a pretty intense album. Because that was the only album where we had the session drummer of Dave Colros on, so he kind of gave us a more vicious sound to the album, whereas maybe some of our other albums sound a little more barbaric and stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know. I guess if I had to say, it would just have to be very, very blasphemous and something, you know, just twisted, blasphemous, and almost chaotic or something. But I don't really have anything in mind. I never really thought about that, especially for that album, because um, even though the album did great for us, it's probably low on my list of favorite albums that we've done. So I never really thought of it that way. But I also realized that that album is very light. A lot of people got into our stuff on that album, and they like it very much. And I'm not saying I hate the album, but it's not in my personal top tier of albums that we did. But it's more because of the way that it was done than because of the songs themselves. It was just I felt that that album was rushed a little bit, and even though Dave Carlos did an amazing job on it, I was used to working with a drummer for a long period of time, and this was more of a session drummer kind of situation. So to not have the time to really mature the songs with the drummer, it made the studio situation a little bit more awkward than it what normally is. But at the same time, I learned a lot from doing that album, because even though the other drummers that we work with are great, before that, Jim Rowe and also Kyle Severin before that, um, Dave Carlos was different, and he helped get a little bit of a different vibe across with the same songs. As no matter who you have in the band, uh, different musicians are going to help accent different parts of the band's sound or whatnot.
Hmm. So
So I
basically,
kind of
give
answered it with added bonus.
yeah, definitely. So basically, it gave you in a way like new a breath of fresh air, let's say in the process, even though it was weird as.
Yes, it was just a different person brings something different to the table,
Mhm.
and it was good, and it was great. Dave Carlos is a great guy, and he did an amazing job. I mean, his drum work is absolutely stunning and phenomenal. But it was just a big learning curve for me once we were tracking stuff or whatever. I realized that the chemistry that I had with the previous drummers, I didn't have the same chemistry with this drummer. There's different aspects of Dave Carross's playing that makes him great. And I realized doing that album made me realize how important vibing with the drummer properly is. And if I would have had, say, if Dave Carross would have dedicated, like, I don't know, 6 months to being in the band and working on the album, and we would have practiced like a whole lot with beforehand, then I think I would have felt a little more comfortable with it. But for the fact that we had the songs written with really simple drum parts, and then he came in and kind of just took those parts and just played over it, kind of thing, and then we had the track to it. It just came across awkward to me because it was the first time I did something in that way. Like I said, every drummer we did beforehand, we practiced for like years, or at least a year or something before recording something. And this is like the guys with us for, a couple weeks, and we do an album. It was a little bit of a culture shock for me.
Mhm.
Ok,
Ok. Allora,
fantastico.
praticamente ha detto che di per sé lui c'ha una, chiamiamola così, quasi una relazione di amore e odio con questo
But
album, anche
one
se
thing
non si
real
parla.
quickly,
Yeah.
I just is that just because the situation was a culture shock, and a little bit awkward, it doesn't mean that, you know, something great didn't happen from that collaboration. It was just my personal opinions are always something that is, for me, it was the most uncomfortable, I guess, I felt in the studio.
Mhm.
But it's not that it was bad or like trying to devalue anything, because I think the album came out really good, and I'm really proud of the album. I mean, especially songs like Anoint the Chosen and Sempiternal Pandemonium are both songs that I think are really good off that album. But it was just, every time we talk about albums, especially, I have like a personal connection with them, and some personal connections more positive, some's more negative, but it's all important in expressing the sound of the album.
Ok. Ok, allora praticamente ha detto tantissime cose, quindi cerco di riassumere un attimo quanto più brevemente
Certo,
possibile. Ha detto che stavo dicendo appunto che lui c'è una sorta di relazione di amore e odio con questo album, nel senso che per loro è stato relativamente controverso, ma non per questioni pubbliche o che, ma per il fatto che intanto su quest'album hanno lavorato con Dave Carross, che è un batterista session che ha suonato anche con gruppi come Suffocation, Malevolent Creation, e appunto lui ha fatto da batterista session in questa release. E dicevo amore perché comunque lui sa che intanto ha fatto bene, che ha messo sotto la luce molte cose loro dal punto di vista di pubblico, nel senso che molti ancora adesso lo adorano. Quest'album, tu appunto, sei stato uno di quelli, quindi eh, lo hai confermato. E invece lui non gli piace chissà quanto, nel senso che proprio musicalmente non lo metterebbe nella sua lista dei preferiti di quelli che ha fatto con gli
mhm,
Incantation, anzi, e anche proprio la registrazione in sé dell'album è stata strana, un po' perché c'era il processo nuovo col batterista session, e che lui diceva: cazzo, io sono sempre stato abituato a provare per un anno prima di avere un batterista, scusami, prima di andare a registrare. Adesso mi sono ritrovato con 2 settimane di tempo con un batterista che non conoscevo, cioè, o quantomeno che non conoscevo dal punto di vista di come avrebbe fatto con loro in studio. E poi comunque nulla da dire, che è stato bravissimo, è stato eccellente, però lui ha realizzato che questa uscita gli ha fatto vedere quanto significhi effettivamente star là a essere non tanto in conforto con il come si chiama? Col batterista, ma proprio che ci sia chimica tra tutti. Appunto è sempre stato un po' restio da quel punto di vista, però a parte questi aspetti non ha veramente nulla da dire, anzi. Detto che anche dal punto di vista di immagine dell'uscita, sì, lui voleva che fosse un'uscita cupa musicalmente, che fosse blasfema e contorta in un certo senso, e questo è riuscito bene. Solo che poi appunto c'è tutta la questione che ci va dietro delle registrazioni che non si è ritrovato stranito, appunto, in senso generale. Perché poi appunto anche con altri batteristi che hanno avuto in passato, lui si è sempre trovato divinamente con loro. Non che appunto che con Dave sia stato diverso, però appunto tutta quella sensazione di alchimia che c'è tra di loro era ben diversa in questa situazione.
Quindi diciamo che c'è quel però che è un po' macchia, diciamo tra virgolette.
Esatto.
A te la prossima domanda, prego, Adimer.
Okay, so we were talking about the fact that you guys changed styles so many times throughout the years, and now while listening back to your first releases, let's just take the Full-length album. So we're talking about Onward to Golgotha. How do you see it now, and what do you think while looking back at it, and what was back then of you personally and the project, the band?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think that I wouldn't say we changed so much over the years. I think the better way to explain it is we've expanded on our sound over the years because it's to me it's all it all comes from the same core of what the concept of the band is. I mean, early on with Onward to Golgotha, we really just wanted to do something that was distinctively us and really push the limits of brutality and darkness in the music. I mean, we were taking what we were influenced by, like the bands I mentioned, like Necrophagia, Possessed, Early Death, stuff like that, and wanted to mold it and make it into, like, mesh it together, I guess, and make it into what our own personal expression, and do something that was substantially expression of our just fire and rage. Because I mean, were really inspired as a band around that time of, I mean, really from when we started to, and with Onward to Golgotha up to that point, we were very inspired, and we just almost, I would say, cocky in a way, because it was, we just wanted to tell everybody, to fuck off, and we're going to do things our way. And that album, I think, really shows that we were confident in what we were trying to do, and we basically accomplished our goal. We weren't planning on, say, starting a different style of death metal or trying to be innovators of anything. That wasn't the goal. The goal was just the self-expression, go, letting it all, like everything we had goes into this, every bit of our being. And we just wanted to, in our use our vision of what we felt death metal was, and trying to
Make it yours in a way.
yeah, make it ours. And it's like these other bands, they were great bands around that time, a lot of great bands, but we didn't want to be them. We wanted to be us, and we wanted to. It was great because we were able to make a statement early on. Like, we were focused on what we were trying to do. But I don't think we 100% knew what the outcome was going to be on album, but we knew that we wanted that murky sound. We wanted it dirty. We wanted it rough, because that's all the stuff that I was really influenced by, and the rest of the band was really influenced by. We've always been a real band, not worried about you know tightness, playing the click tracks and stuff like that. Like, sometimes the music's looser and stuff, but it's looser because we want that passion, that vibe in the music. It's not just about the notes. A mantra that I had pretty early on, really from the beginning of the band, was, it's not like the notes aren't really important. It's the way what you feel when they're put together, and the riffs and the drumming and everything. It's like the feeling you get when the collaboration of all the instruments are there. That's what's important. It's not the individual pieces aren't quite as important. I mean, it's each individual piece is its own expression, but together it makes something that is provoking in some way. And we really wanted to push the limits. It's all about pushing our own limits and wanting to just express these feelings we had and our vision ourselves. And that's, I think, I think Onward to Golgotha has that, that fire to it. It's an album I'm really proud of. I worked really hard, and we had a really great lineup for the album, and it was a wonderful time to be in the band, because it was just, it was new. Well, every show we played, like, most of the time, no one's ever heard anything in our style of death metal before. So everywhere we were playing, we were making some sort of impact. Good, sometimes bad, but it was the fact that there might be three other bands playing the bill, and we were always the underdog, or the different band out of the group. But that was great. We because we wanted to be ourselves, and we didn't have expectations that it was going to be, do that well, or that we were going to still be here this many years later. That was not it. It was just all in the moment, and just, to me, it's better to be successful, or even not successful being yourself, than it is to be successful being a sellout, or just trying to copy what other bands are doing. And we had no interest in that. I mean, we were inspired for sure, but definitely not. We didn't want to copy, and it was really difficult to get that album done, because there was not. I mean, I know it sounds egotistical, but there wasn't anything like that album before that album came out. So it was very difficult to explain in the studio what you're trying to do. Plus, we were all novices as far as understanding the recording process and stuff like that. So we're very fortunate that the album came out the way it did, because all we had was a lot of piss and vinegar, and we were just really, we were focused as a laser on what we wanted to do, even though we didn't 100% know how to get there. But somehow it came out, and people either heard it and they were refreshed that it was something that was different, or they hated it because it was something that wasn't just like all the other bands that were coming out. And either reaction was totally valid and fine, because we knew we were doing things our own way. We knew we were kind of maybe isolating ourselves a little bit from, say, an overall big scene. Even though we were part of the scene, we were still always that outside band. It's a little bit different than the other bands in our scene and stuff like that, but it was totally cool and fine.
Ok,
Ok.
prego.
Allora praticamente gli ho chiesto, un'altra
Mh-mh.
delle mie classiche domande, ossia come si vede adesso a distanza di 30 anni dall'uscita della prima release del primo full, appunto, Onward to Golgotha del '92 rispetto ad oggi, cosa cos'è cambiato, come si vede rispetto all'epoca. E ho detto che di per sé non è che sia cambiato molto dal punto di vista, di persone all'interno del gruppo, nel senso di vabbè, oltre alla questione line-up, però appunto tutta la faccenda di, intanto stile, sì, è cambiato, è verissimo, ma di base c'è sempre lo stesso concetto, quello che dicevamo all'inizio, ossia quello di, prendere tutti i vari stili che loro ascoltavano o comunque che erano presenti, farlo loro e produrre qualcosa di nuovo. Ehm, Questo qua appunto non è cambiato minimamente nel gruppo. Poi, un'altra cosa è il fatto vabbè dell'esperienza, nel senso che comunque parliamo del primo full che hanno registrato, quindi era tutto nuovo per loro, era particolare all'epoca, e appunto di per sé anche quello gli ha, permesso di creare un prodotto che fosse sì omogeneo, ma anche, ehm, naturale, genuino da questo punto di vista. Anche solo il fatto che loro non utilizzino, ad esempio, il metronomo, che ancora oggi non lo usino. Ovviamente si intende per registrare e per fare i concerti, che quello che loro vogliono fare è: sì, le note son quelle, benissimo, lasciamo che comunque ci sia un flow, comunque un'emozione che traspare nel mentre che si suona, che quindi il tempo fluttui, che sia un po' più veloce, un po' più lento rispetto magari alla versione che poi viene registrata. Vai a vedere. Ehm, Tutti questi aspetti non son mai cambiati, nemmeno per il cazzo. Un'altra cosa che, lui ha detto è che, uhm, anche all'epoca, per quanto riguarda la musica che facevano, loro son sempre stati, diciamo, gli outsider del genere.
Mh.
Nel senso che anche con 3, 4 band nel bill, loro comunque erano quelli visti un po' strano, può piacere, può non piacere,
Okay,
creare tutte quelle situazioni dove trovi 3, dico io, 3 persone a cui piaci, 50 che ti mandano a cagare. Quindi
certo.
è tutto così. Ehm Nonostante loro facessero parte della scena, loro non, tra virgolette, si son visti come presi parte della scena. Ehm, tutte queste cose sono andate a creare quello che, è Incantation di adesso.
Okay, perfetto. Visto ottimo lavoro come sempre Elmer, visto che stiamo giungendo ormai alla conclusione dell'intervista, io vorrei fare appunto, la domanda finale del canale con un'aggiunta di una domanda. Prima di tutto avremo una seconda parte a Mr. John perché veramente c'è tanto da raccontare, veramente c'è tanto da raccontare, è veramente fantastico tutto ciò quello che si è andato a realizzare oggi con appunto la video intervista del verso John McEntee, leader dell'Incantation. John, se chiudiamo gli occhi in questo preciso momento, vai a ricordare la tua infanzia e vai a ricordare il primo disco che hai ascoltato e questo disco ci devi dire quale e in che momento di una track, non con precisione, una track, appunto del primo disco che ha ascoltato di John McEntee, che ha deciso, no, voglio mettere su una band, chiamarla Incantation. Domanda finale, appunto, sulla testa del Mister Adimer c'è il Calice Nero. Questo Calice Nero deve versare una bevanda alquanto alcolica, ma con chiari riferimenti all'incantesimo, alla magia nera, ma allo stesso tempo portando questa verve alcolica un qualcosa che ancora non si è visto prima.
Ok, mi sono perso un attimo una parte della prima domanda, quella
Allora,
del...
la prima domanda è semplice. In poche parole, voglio capire qual è l'album, il primo album che ha ascoltato John McEntee, ok?
Ok, dove...
Una
ok,
track,
a posto, a posto, a posto, a posto.
perfetto. Non è precisamente la track per forza.
No, no, okay, so this is a double question. I will go for the two separate things more than just one singular question. The first one is okay. We've said that Kiss was the band that put you uh, into willing to play an instrument. Looking back at when Incantation started, what is the track, the band, the album that made you say, okay, I want to start a band and call it Incantation? What does it mean?
I don't know if there's one band. I mean, I mean, probably the most important band for me when trying to inspiring me, that would probably have to be Possessed. I mean, Possessed Seven
Okay.
Churches was a and I love the album. When I first heard it, I didn't even understand it that much because it was so over the top and so dark and evil sounding and stuff. And that was one of the main things that um, you know I really inspired me to want to do something that's dark like that and hopefully push it to even the next level of darkness and oppression and stuff. But I mean, there was a lot of bands that were very inspirational to me. I mean, Necrophagia was very inspirational because they also had a very cinematic sound to their songs and really dark, kind of like a an Italian B horror movie or something like that kind of vibe
Mhm.
on the Necrophagia stuff, and then uh, what Necrovore too. Like I said, the early Morbid Angel stuff was very inspiring.
Mm.
Death, Scream, Bloody Gore, all those bands were kind of like
Ah,
a inspirational. Also, you know, I really liked the heaviness and atmosphere of those early. I like all the Candlemass stuff, but the early Candlemass stuff was also very inspiring. That's why, I mean, I wanted to mesh everything that I like together and just because I felt like there was a time, the time that we were putting out our first album, music was death metal. People were looking at death metal as just fast, and that's what makes it death metal. And for me, I was like, I didn't think it was just fast. Fast is one of the tools in your toolbox to use, but also the doom stuff and the atmospheric heavy stuff, the mid-tempo stuff, all that stuff is an important part of the mix. It's not just about how fast
Speed.
you're playing. Yeah, I mean the speed, like I said, it's just one way of getting something across, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad or a good thing. It's just one of the things that is makes makes the whole journey make sense or whatever. And a lot of the fast stuff that I preferred at that time was more almost chaotic fast stuff than it was just the simple tight fast stuff.
Mhm. Okay,
Okay.
we're going to translate back this
Yes.
thing that we just talked about. Allora, di per sé non c'è una band, una release che le abbia fatto dire ok, voglio mettere su una band, perché ci sono tantissime cose, tantissime uscite di quel periodo che l'hanno portato a quel punto. Ha parlato ad esempio di Possessed con Seven Churches, ha parlato dei Necrophagia che erano un po' più
Gore.
no, più cinematici, lui ha detto,
Ah, ok.
che
Sì,
davano quella sensazione di film horror di serie B, in un certo
è vero,
senso,
concordo.
come stile. Poi lui ha parlato di gruppi come i Necrovore, ha parlato di gruppi come i Morbid Angel, che appunto dicevamo anche prima, delle prime demo che avevano fatto. E addirittura lui ha nominato i primi Candlemas, quindi la parte un po' più doomy, un po' più pesante, atmosferica. Tutto questo ha portato alla creazione di quella che è poi la creatura chiamata Incantation. E appunto per lui è troppo complesso star là a tirar
Certo.
fuori un nome per poter dire ok, questo ha portato la nascita di tutto. E sì,
Ma anche
tutto qua.
Scrimbla di Gore? Anche
Sì, lui ha
Scrimbla di
citato
Gore?
anche
Dei
Scrimbla di
Dead.
Gore, dei Death.
Grande.
E niente, questo è quanto. Adesso procedo col fargli
Yeah, 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 yeah.
la domanda finale. Ok, now since we are running out of time, sort of saying, and that we are closing the interview, I will first off thank you for getting here for this hour with us. It has been
Thank you
an honor.
for doing this.
Thanks to you. It has been an honor, and also we would love to have you for a second part for Incantation, because there's still so much to talk about that it's difficult to keep it in 1 hour. So
You could do it once a week for a year.
yeah, I mean there's what 34 years to talk about, so there's plenty of time. My fucking god. And and I would love to close up with the typical closing question for the channel. That, as you can see on top over here, there's a chalice, a great chalice, that you have to fill up with a drink, with a alcoholic beverage that is intense, and that can also make you think about Incantation. So you need to enjoy it while listening to the band, but also that can, quote unquote, remind you of something ritualistic in a way. What could it be?
Okay, well, we could use our. We have a mead that we made called Goat's Blood, so I think that's the perfect thing to
Ok,
drink. Hold on a second, I have a thing of it.
ok.
Ok, adesso vediamo.
Esatto, perché praticamente ho detto che hanno una bevanda loro perfetta che si chiama Goat's Blood. Che
Yeah, where we're at here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fantastic.
So, yes, I'll fill up that thing with some goat's blood.
Okay, that's good. And nowadays, like, because for the ones that maybe don't know about the beverage,
Oh, yeah. Well, it's what's it? Birminghorn Meadery. I mean, well, I think it's just a brewery kind of place that makes their own, special brews of different alcohols and stuff like that. And they've done numerous bands. They've done, I think Enslaved. They might have done. I know they do one for like each of the bands of the Decibel. Was it Metal and
Amazing.
Beer Fest they have in Philly each year? Like they basically do like a band themed alcohol, every so often and stuff. And this one is actually pretty old. They probably did it about 5 or 6 years ago, but they still make batches of it every now and then. It's just basically a special blend of mead, which is, kind of we wanted to have instead of just a regular beer, we wanted to have some more old world type alcohol, which is this is similar to like something they might have drank, back in the England in the the kingdom days or something like that. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's definitely a cool beverage. And yeah, it's you can't I don't think you're allowed to get it in Europe. It's there's some kind of bullshit laws about alcohol. And at least in the US it's super strict as far as where you could send this stuff out. So even in the US it's not the easiest to find because the distribution of alcohol is not is regulated by the government and stuff. But it's
it's
if you ever
strict.
come to the US, I'll get you a bottle if you want. Try some.
Okay, that would be fucking great. Because I've seen you were promoting it, but never got a chance to actually get it. So I'm curious. Ah, allora, praticamente ho detto che appunto l'avevo già accennato prima.
Mhm.
Eh, Lui metterebbe questo idromele, questa sorta di idromele chiamato
Ok.
Ghost Blood, che praticamente è fatto da una distilleria, comunque da un birrificio che fa tutte varie cose per
No.
anche band, e tra cui ha fatto anche questo. E
Mm.
ha detto che appunto è abbastanza difficile da trovare un po' perché lo fanno ad andate, nel senso che ogni tanto magari ne fanno ancora un po' di bottiglie,
Ah,
e quindi è abbastanza complesso da trovare. Però addirittura c'è il problema che il Goat's Blood e in generale l'alcol negli Stati Uniti è abbastanza complessa come regolamentazione, quindi
vero.
crea problemi poterlo inviare fuori, quindi è comunque molto molto raro, però è in ogni caso relativamente delicato, però appunto niente di più perfetto che mettere il drink degli Incantation dentro il calice per l'Incantation.
Perfetto. Allora, John, grazie di
Yes.
cuore, veramente. Grazie, 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 perché per noi è stato veramente un onore immenso. Ti auguriamo
Yeah, prego.
tutto il bene immaginabile appunto nella tua vita privata e nella vita artistica. Mi raccomando, non mollate mai perché noi ci cibiamo grazie alla vostra arte. Veramente, thank you very much.
No,
So,
you're welcome.
thanks to you for again being here, and we wish you honestly all the best for your personal life and your musical career as well, and not just with Incantation, but in general. And we honestly are looking forward to see more coming from you, even though you released uh, an album last summer, but still there's never enough, I guess. So we we're looking forward to have more. So keep it up, and thanks again for everything.
Yes. Where are you guys at? Where are you guys from in Italy?
Uh, Actually, it depends because I'm from northern Italy. The guy over here is from the island, so he's from
Oh, okay.
Sardinia.
Yeah,
So
Sardinia.
Oh, cool.
we're
Awesome.
spazzed all over the place.
Yes. Well, that's cool. Well, yeah, thank you very much for the interview. And, you know, if you ever want to do this again, just hit me up because, like you said, you guys seem to have a lot of questions, and I'm, always down with, answering whatever you have to, whatever you might want to know about. And, yeah, like I said, thank you very much. I appreciate the support. The stuff that you guys do is very important for the underground scene. It's not just about
Thanks a lot.
us bands, but it's great to have people out there that are, giving us the time to get our word out of the band to hopefully some new people, and also hopefully some old school fans learned a little bit of something about our history. So yeah, it's definitely cool. And yeah, muchas gracias, amigos, even though you're not Mexican.
Bye bye, John.
Ciao. Yeah, see ya.
Bye.
Ciao, John.
Adios. Ciao.
Fantastico. Ok. Ok,
Allora,
lasciate le ultime traduzioni, prego.
sì, praticamente ha detto che volentieri, siccome ha visto che abbiamo molte domande da fargli,
Uff,
che più che volentieri, nel caso di una seconda parte si può fare molto più serenamente. Ha detto che ringrazia tantissimo perché è importante quello che facciamo noi per l'underground e in generale per la musica, quindi sì, ci ha ringraziato veramente, veramente di cuore.
questo vuol dire tanto, ecco, quando i musicisti devono imparare da alcuni e non tirarsela, menarsela e credersi non so chi prima di rilasciare interviste e sembra che devi leccare il culo a Gesù Cristo. Quindi ho alcuni nomi
Sì, non vo
grossi che chiedono soldi per le video interviste.
sì, non solo, ma anche personaggi abbastanza noti
Come King of
dove
N, come si presentano,
sì,
cioè.
esatto, non volevo far nomi, ma il nome d'arte, quindi a posto. E niente, questo è quanto, ci vuole più gente così.
Infatti. Allora, con Adima ci vediamo direttamente il 7 con i Crypt Slaughter, che è un gruppo che non c'è più, americano thrash metal, ma è un'intervista video commemorativa, quindi un gruppo degli anni 80 veramente importante. Io saluto Adimer, ringrazio Adimer di cuore veramente per la sua professionalità e per sempre, appunto, sembra un soldato, infatti quando fate il gesto sembra un soldato appunto pronto a partire in guerra. No, non lo facciamo partire.
No,
Parto io in
no,
guerra.
no, 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 no.
Quello parto io. Ok,
Lo porto
grazie
io?
mille. Ascolta, facciamo una cosa, partiamo tutti e due, partiamo tutti e due e mandiamo a
Va
fanculo a
bene, ti
tutti,
attendo, ti
facciamo così.
attendo, ti attendo.
Dai, ti auguro una buona notte e una buona serata.
Altrettanto,
Ciao
buona
carissimo.
nanna.
Un abbraccio. Ok ragazzi, niente, siamo giunti alla conclusione. Allora, domani ricordo, oggi John McEntee dell'Incantation, ho avuto la prima parte con Calice Nero, quindi veramente l'obiettivo era di portare anche John McEntee di Dead Incantation. Allora, domani abbiamo i Raven che è un gruppo veramente storico degli anni 80, del New Wave o British Metal, Heavy Metal, Speed Metal, quindi un gruppo veramente importantissimo dell'Inghilterra. Avremo uno dei due leader scusate, dei Raven con John Gallagher che è voce e basso dal 1974. Adesso vi metto le track finali, track sponsorizzate del canale. Ricordiamo che si sta cercando di portare i Breaking Up un'altra volta. Vediamo un attimino, si sta trattando anche con Rick Rhodes per farlo ritornare, il batterista dei ex Violence Costa dei Violence, e poi si sta appunto programmando anche altre interviste, cercando. Ci saranno molto probabile i coroner che saranno il 10, dalle 17 alle 18, che con Tommy Vetrelli abbiamo preso questo accordo, quindi dovrebbe esserci appunto i coroner dalle 17 alle 18. Pionieri crossover trash, sì, bravo Fabio, bravissimo Fabio. molto molto attento. Infatti avremo il leader appunto dei Crypt Slaughter, che veramente per me è veramente un grandissimo onore. Niente ragazzi, vi metto le 2 track finali e poi appunto vi saluto, gli ultimi saluti finali. Adesso trovo le track e partiamo subito dal rock dei Violent Blend al death metal veramente molto pesante e in your face dei Pandrador. Buon ascolto. Eccoci qua ragazzi, siamo arrivati alla conclusione con appunto Rock DJ Violet Blend di Giada, la nostra collaboratrice, Pandrador from appunto Polonia, T-Wards, che è veramente una track micidiale, veramente un gruppo molto interessante del death metal. Niente, sta volendo tanti nomi in pentola sul Calice Nero, quindi vi porterò altra roba interessante, preparatevi, domani ci sono i Raven, quindi sull'heavy metal. Il 7 ci sono i Cryptic Slaughter, l'8 ci sono i Thanatos dall'Olanda, che verranno annunciati tutto domani, e poi il 10 ci sono i Coroner, e poi ci saranno altri nomi veramente molto molto interessanti. Quindi ragazzi, grazie a tutti. Oggi ricordiamo che abbiamo avuto il 2, come siamo ritrovati dopo appunto le festività dell'anno nuovo, con i Tankard il 2, che era martedì se non ricordo male. Mercoledì abbiamo avuto Insanity, appunto del thrash metal, altro gruppo veramente storico del 1985 se non ricordo male, del thrash metal from U.S.A, e oggi abbiamo avuto John McEntee dei Incantation, domani il Raven, quindi non finiamo qua. Grazie a tutti, vi auguro una buona serata, una buona notte, vi auguro appunto dei sogni molto molto tenebrosi. Ricordatevi che il grande spettacolo continua e non si fermerà mai. Il sacro codice 9000, la morte vi renderà liberi. Au revoir.